There had also been an apparition in the Ukraine.
Yes.
Way in 1953 at a place called Seredna. And the Virgin Mary told this woman named Hanya, and this is worth listening to, quote, "Disaster is upon you as in the times of Noah. Not by flood, but by fire will the destruction come." There's that word fire again. "An immense flood of fire shall destroy nations for sinning before God. Since the beginning of the world, there's never been such a fall as there is today," she said at Seredna. This is the kingdom of Satan, getting back to the red dragon. "I shall dwell on this hill," that's at Seredna, "from which I see the entire universe and the many sinners, and I shall distribute my graces through a well here," she told them. But anyway, once again, this concept of fire, just like Troya saw, and just like Padre Pio saw. One time, St. Padre Pio was asked about the future, and he said simply, "Can't you see the fire?" But I imagine, we imagine now with the weapons we have that the fire can certainly come in the way of nuclear conflict. It was very interesting, Ron and Raphael, if you remember, there was a picture taken in Mururoa where the French tested nuclear weapons and used to test atmospheric weapons. There was a picture, it ran in Newsweek magazine, that showed a mushroom cloud in Mururoa, one of the test islands. And very clearly, in the stem of that mushroom cloud, you could see Jesus on the cross crucified, and to his right, there, just like at the real crucifixion, there was the Virgin Mary. She was a silhouette in white in this mushroom cloud, this nuclear cloud. So I'd have to think, we've had that picture several times on Spirit Daily. I have to think that that's what's being referred to when we hear the word prophetically, when we hear the word fire. Russia and Ukraine have been bitter enemies for many centuries. It's always been a spiritual battle before it's been a physical one. Russia has constantly tried to snuff out Catholicism in Ukraine. Ukraine has a very strong Catholic segment, as well as Orthodoxy. And when I went over there, it was right as communism was falling, and and the Virgin Mary was appearing at these churches that had been closed for many decades, since the 1930s, 1940s, by communist Russia. And suddenly she was appearing in this place, Zarvanitsia, or that place, Pigkaimen, Hurushu, all these places, and all these people who I spoke to personally, giving extraordinary testimony as Catholicism was able to revive itself after being pummeled by communist Russia. The Soviets, they nailed priests to the wall. They killed thousands of priests and nuns. They killed so many people. Joseph Troya himself did 20 years in the Gulag, and they did everything they could to kill him through torture, but he survived miraculously. But he always felt that Ukraine was an apocalyptic country. And I didn't really fully understand that because, back then you didn't really hear of Ukraine much. But I remember once telling me, we put it in a book we did together, it was called Witness. He said, I'll quote him directly, he said, because he was having apparitions of the Virgin Mary while he was in the Soviet prison system. She appeared to him one time when he was in what they call a freeze cell. They were trying to freeze him to death. This was in Siberia. They just opened the windows and took all his clothes off him, and then he was laying there. His beard was turning into icicles, and his eyebrows were frozen shut. And yet all of a sudden there was this warmth in the cell, and he could open his eyes, and the Virgin Mary was there. And this happened a couple times to him in prison, and he was given prophecies by the Virgin Mary. He was given visions by the Virgin Mary, and in one of them, if I can quote him, he said that the Virgin Mary said, "Now look, and he said, I saw a map. I saw a map, and parts of it were burning. It was Russia. There were fires erupting all over Russia. Surrounding countries were also involved. There were flames in various parts of the world. It was what could happen if mankind does not come back to her son. Again, the Virgin Mary showing them this. I saw entire landscapes. I saw a river I recognized as the Amur River. That's between Soviet Union at the time and China. I don't know how I knew it was that river. I saw many islands there. I saw tanks on the Soviet side, but not the Soviet type, and a city in flames and so forth. Siberia was on fire to the Ural Mountains, and on and on and on. In other words, tremendous conflict, and especially between Ukraine and Russia, he saw conflict coming. And of course, we know what's happened in the last 2 years. It's going on 3 years. What has happened over there? So, where does this end up? Well, again, Joseph Chirella always described Ukraine as a quote apocalyptic country, and
Yes.
and we'll see. I did, when I was there, I did visit the main visionary at Refuge, this young peasant woman. I mean, this was very poor country. When I visited it, it was rare to see another car on the road. I hired a driver and who was the husband of a doctor. And even though his wife was a doctor, they didn't have aspirin. You go to, when they had to fill up with gas, you'd be pumping it by hand. Their cops didn't have cars. You'd see them along the road at phone booths. If they saw somebody speeding, they would call to the next checkpoint. I mean, it was a very primitive situation, and she appeared there to these tens of thousands of people, but first to this very poor little peasant girl, and she gave similar prophecies, similar to what Chirella had said he was told when he was in prison, and then also just one more mention of Seredna back years before that, in which the visionary, in which it was said, I see fire, the villages are burning, water is burning, the very air is on fire, everything is in flames. If people do not convert to Christ, there will be war. There shall be a great conflagration. All of you have heard me today. You must go into the world and witness about what is to come. Actually, that was to Chirella. I'm sorry, but it sounds like nuclear war. It certainly sounds like nuclear war. Right now, I hear news that U.S. President Donald Trump is going to be going to Hungary to meet with Vladimir Putin. So maybe this will cool down the situation. But we're on the verge of a hot world war. I mean, you have all these hundreds of drones that have violated Polish airspace that we know were sent by the Russians, even though that they've been in disguise. A lot of these drones are built in Iran. China and Russia have come into a very precarious alliance, precarious for us, because wow, those are two major powers. You have drones that have, or cyber attacks in Denmark. Right now in Estonia, Russian troops have been seen crossing the line. And, they're building both sides, the NATO forces, particularly in Poland, and the Russians are building along the border, so that this whole Ukrainian situation could easily become, a world war, just like Chirella saw in these visions, just like what was seen at Hiroshima by the young girl there. And then you've got other situations around the world, like Venezuela.
Welcome to Mother in Refuge at the End Times. We are thrilled to announce our Mother in Refuge pilgrimage to Medjugorje. We are traveling to Medjugorje for the historic 45th anniversary of the apparitions of the Queen of Peace, This momentous pilgrimage will be held between June 22nd, 2026 and June 29th, 2026, with the option of continuing to Rome and Garabandal. This first ever Mother in Refuge pilgrimage will be hosted by Totally Yours Pilgrimages and will be led by our very own beloved channel host and chaplain, Father Dom Francis. Other Mother in Refuge team members will also be present, such as Rafael Vilanco, Ron Ray, and others, for an unbeatable price of only $2,995, including flights from the U.S., transportation, lodging, and 2 daily meals, or $1,795 for a land-only package suitable for those joining us from outside of the USA. This is a once-in-a-lifetime pilgrimage. Please register as soon as possible so that you do not miss out. Please visit this website to register. As always, we thank you so much for your support. May God bless you and keep you, and may the Immaculate Heart of Mary be your refuge.